Welcome to the fresh dawn of business, where the future is shaped by decisions made today. The year is 2024, and the stage is set for the annual stockholders meeting of LT Group Inc. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. This is the day when we, as shareholders, wield the power to shape the future. The annual stockholders meeting of LT Group Inc. is now in session. Stay tuned, stay informed, and stay ahead, because in the world of business, every moment counts.
Good morning to the stockholders, officers, and directors of the company. I am Lucio C. Tan III, President and Chief Operating Officer of LT Group Inc. I have been requested by the Chairman, Dr. Lucio C. Tan, to chair the meeting this morning. As it is now 10 o'clock in the morning, I hereby call the annual stockholders meeting of LT Group Inc. to order. As with the previous years, this meeting is being convened via remote communication through the Zoom webinar application and is being recorded in compliance with the requirements of the SEC. Before we begin the meeting proper, let me acknowledge the directors of the corporation who are present in person in this meeting. Apart from myself, joining us in this meeting this morning are our Chairman, Dr. Lucio C. Tan, Ms. Carmen K. Tan, Ms. Carlu T. Sai, Mr. Michael G. Tan, Ms. Vivian K. Tan, Ms. Juanita Tan Lee, Mr. Jonep G. Kua, Ms. Mary G. Nang, Attorney Wilfredo E. Sanchez, Ms. Florencia G. Tariella. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our directors and stockholders present at today's meeting. Let us now proceed with the meeting proper. May we now ask our Corporate Secretary, Attorney Cecilia L. Pasaico, to please show proof that stockholders were duly notified of this meeting.
Mr. President, as required by the Securities Regulation Code and in compliance with the revised Corporation Code and the notice of the SEC dated February 23, 2024, the notice for today's meeting was published in the business section of two newspapers of general circulation, namely Philippine Daily Inquirer and Philippine Star, in print and online format for 2 consecutive days. As recommended by the Code of Corporate Governance for publicly listed companies, the notice was last published on April 5, 2024, which is at least 28 days prior to the date of the meeting. Affidavits of publication were executed by the respective authorized representatives of Philippine Daily Inquirer, Inc. and Philstar Daily, Inc., the publishing companies engaged by management for publication. The affidavits are hereby submitted for the record. Moreover, the notice of this meeting was posted on the company's website at www.ltg.com.ph and on the company's PSE Edge profile. I therefore certify that our shareholders were duly notified.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. We now move on to the certification of the existence of a quorum. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum for today's meeting?
Yes, Mr. President. As stated in the guidelines for the conduct of today's virtual meeting, the last day of registration for today's meeting was on April 25, 2024. Based on our tally of those who successfully registered online and the validated proxies and powers of attorney on hand, the number of shareholders present in person and represented by proxy are shown on the screen. I therefore certify as to the existence of a quorum for the valid transaction of business at today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Before we proceed any further, Madam Secretary, can you briefly discuss the rules for the conduct of and the voting procedure for our meeting today?
Yes, Mr. President. The voting rights of each stockholder and the requirements and procedure for participation and voting through remote communication were set out in the company's definitive information statement. In summary, the voting procedure and conduct of the meeting are as follows. First, stockholders who have successfully completed the registration and verification procedure on or before April 25, 2024 may participate in today's virtual meeting and shall be considered present for quorum purposes. Second, the stockholders had until April 26, 2024 to send questions on the agenda matters via email at ltgasm@ltg.com.ph. For the orderly conduct of today's business, these questions will be addressed later in the meeting. Questions received after the deadline have been referred to the company's investor relations officer and will be responded to via email. The matters submitted for voting at today's meeting are as follows. A. Approval of the minutes of the 2023 Annual Stockholders Meeting. B. Approval of the management report and the audited financial statements. C. Ratification of all acts, transactions, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and Management since 2023 Annual Stockholders Meeting. D. Approval of the renomination of Ms. Florencia G. Terriela and Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez as independent directors. E. Election of directors. And F. The appointment of external auditor. Next, voting in absentia is recognized for this virtual meeting. Stockholders should have cast their votes by email at ltgasm@ltg.com.ph no later than April 25, 2024 by sending a completed ballot or proxy. Validation of proxies and tabulation of votes were completed on April 26, 2024. Lastly, we wish to remind the stockholders that this virtual meeting is being recorded in video and audio format in compliance with the requirements of the Securities and Exchange Commission. That is all, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. Let us now proceed with the main agenda for today's meeting. The first item in the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting of the stockholders. Our last annual stockholders meeting was held on May 3, 2023, and the matters approved in that meeting were summarized in the information statement. Madam Corporate Secretary, were the stockholders apprised of this item in the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. A copy of the minutes of 2023 Annual Stockholders Meeting, prepared in accordance with the revised Corporation Code, was posted on the company's website as early as May 5, 2023. The matters approved in the last stockholders meeting were provided under Item 15 of the information statement, which was uploaded to the company's website and PSE Edge profile. With that, Mr. President, it is proposed that in the interest of time, we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the 2023 Annual Stockholders Meeting and approve the minutes as appearing in the company's records.
The proposal is noted. Before we tally the votes on this item, may we know from the Corporate Secretary whether we received any inquiries on this matter?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted via email regarding this matter.
Madam Corporate Secretary, may we know the tally of votes on this matter?
Mr. President, the tally of votes and validated proxies is shown on screen. Based on the total votes received, majority of the outstanding shares of the company represented in this meeting approved the minutes of the 2023 Annual Stockholders Meeting held on May 3, 2023.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. Based on the report of the Corporate Secretary, The minutes of the 2023 Annual Stockholders Meeting held on May 3, 2023 is hereby approved. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. Before we move on to the next agenda, our chairman would like to say a few words. Dear shareholders, the year 2023 was a year of transition as we saw a new president take over the helm of LT Group Inc. in May. I am pleased that the management and employees of the companies under LTG threw their full support behind him so that a smooth transition was made possible. We were able to move forward together. As we moved with unity and steadfastness from the rank-and-file employees to the management team, LTG was able to report an attributable net income of $25.42 billion in 2023, higher than the $25.14 billion reported in 2022. This was achieved notwithstanding the pervading environment of high inflation and a high interest rate, as the groundwork laid down before had enabled the company to remain financially strong. We will continue to move forward together, synchronized and propelling us towards our shared vision with resilience. I want to take this opportunity to give my sincere appreciation and thanks for our shareholders' continued trust and confidence, to the board of directors for their valued guidance, and to our staff and management team for their hard work and dedication. We now move on to the next item in the agenda, which is the management report for the fiscal year 2023. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your presence in the 2024 Annual Stockholders Meeting of LTG today. The year 2023 was a year of transition for LT Group Inc. It was also a year of significant challenges as the country emerged from the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic with an average inflation rate of 6% in 2023. The resulting consequence is not difficult to imagine, like higher prices of goods, raw materials, services, utilities, and reduced capacities of the citizens or consumers. Against this environment, your company successfully navigated through the challenges, and I am proud to report to you that LTG's attributable net income in 2023 amounted to 25.42 billion pesos. The outcome was made possible by the concerted efforts of all subsidiaries to perform and deliver the numbers that contributed to the performance of the company. Allow me to share them with you. PNB reported a net income of 19 billion pesos in 2023 under the pooling method, reflecting a 62% increase from a year ago level of 11.8 billion pesos. Without non-core, one-time items, PNB generated the highest net income in the history of the bank in 2023. The increase was due to the significant gains in the net interest income combined with lower credit provisions. The net interest income was boosted by higher loans and improved yield rates. Consequently, with strong profitability, the bank's total capital posted double-digit growth to reach 185.2 billion pesos, translating to higher capital ratios above the regulatory minimum requirements of 10%. As at the end of 2023, the bank's CAR solo ratio is 15.52%, with the CET1 ratio of 14.67%. Furthermore, on a consolidated basis, the CAR is 17.7%, while the CET1 ratio is 16.85%. Moreover, PNB was recently recognized as the #1 in Forbes magazine's Philippine list of the world's best banks. The ranking was based on overall customer satisfaction with PNB in 5 key areas: trustworthiness, terms and conditions, customer service, digital service, and quality of financial advice. Tanduay, the liquor company, is proud to report its record high net income in 2023 at 1.57 billion, 7% higher than 2022 net income of 1.47 billion pesos. It maintains its sales advantage in the key cities of Visayas and Mindanao with the controlling market share of 71.8% and 79.3% respectively. At the end of 2023, Tanduay's market share locally increased to 31.4%. Likewise, Tanduay has made inroads in foreign markets by making its presence felt in cities like San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. Recently, Tanduay likewise launched in countries like Taiwan, Canada, and Australia. Asia Brewery Inc. maintains its dominance in the energy drink category as Cobra Energy Drink continues to enjoy a 60.4% market share, while its bottled water, Absolute and Summit bottled water, had the third largest market share in the market at 19%. It reported a net income of 571 million pesos in 2023. During the year, Asia Brewery launched several new products in partnership with Pascual of Spain, making available to the customer healthy and delectable products like yogurt and milk in different flavors, as well as launching a vitamin C infused drink in partnership with House Foods Group, Inc., known of Japan, particularly known as CVIT drinks. The effects of high inflation rate cannot be more felt in the tobacco business, where the company experienced lower volume due to the price increases in the first quarter of 2023. The price increases were necessitated by the increase of excise tax, which constrained PMFTC to raise its prices. Furthermore, the volume was likewise affected by the prevalent illicit trade pervading the economy. PMFTC, together with the relevant government agencies, continues to do its share in combating the illicit trade in various parts of the country. Notwithstanding the challenges, PMFTC reported a market share of 55.4% and contributed 11.3 billion pesos to LTG. During the year, PMFTC launched Next Level in tobacco innovations, namely IQOS Illuma, a bladeless heat no-burn system that does not require cleaning after use. And in November, the subsidiary likewise launched Zyn, which are nicotine pouches that allow a smoke-free and tobacco-free experience. With the reorganized and strengthened organization, Eaton resumed the residential sales activities at the end of the third quarter of 2023. For this initiative, Eaton strategically focused on Quezon City and Santa Rosa, Laguna areas, and in the fourth quarter alone was able to book 104 million pesos in sales. Additionally, it was able to streamline many operations while attaining a steady 17% growth on our leasing revenue. As a result, Eaton's net income rose to 453 million pesos compared to 373 million pesos in 2022. About a 21% increase. Other subsidiaries like Victoria's Milling Company added 347 million pesos, while PNB Holdings contributed 333 million pesos to the income of the company. Lastly, it may please the shareholders to know that in 2023, LTG declared cash dividends amounting to 1.2 pesos per share, or a total of 12.99 billion pesos, representing a 51.7% payout rate. Here is a short video of the operating highlights for 2023. We are excited about the future. Your company's business fundamentals are solid. While we are cautiously optimistic about the macroeconomic trends, as interest rates are likely to stay higher for a longer while, the inflationary environment may stay longer than expected. We believe that your portfolio companies' solid business models, brand franchises, and strong balance sheets will allow your company to withstand the macroeconomic headwinds during the year. As we move forward together, we will do so with unity and resilience. We remain steadfast in our commitment as we work towards our shared vision. I want to thank our stakeholders for your support and your trust in your company. I also extend my thanks to our board of directors, the management team, and our employees for their commitment and hard work during this transition. Madam Corporate Secretary, are there any other matters which the stockholders must be informed of?
Mr. President, in compliance with the revised corporation code, the stockholders must be informed of the total compensation received by each of the directors during the past year. Based on the report from the Chief Financial Officer, the following are the individual compensation of the members of the Board of Directors.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. Did we receive inquiries regarding our management report?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online regarding this matter.
Since there are no questions, let us proceed to approve the management report as reflected in the annual report, together with the audited financial statements of the company for the year 2023. You have just heard the President's report on the results of the company's operations, which is also reflected in the audited financial statements and the annual report, copies of which were made available to the stockholders via the company's website and PSE EDGE profile. Madam Corporate Secretary, kindly present the proposed resolution and report on the tally of votes for this item in the agenda.
Mr. President, on the screen is the proposed resolution for this matter. The tally of votes and validated proxies is also on screen. Based on the total votes received, majority of the outstanding shares of the company represented in this meeting voted in favor of this matter.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. With stockholders owning at least a majority of the outstanding shares present voting in favor of the matter, the management report, as reflected in the annual report, together with the audited financial statements for the period ending December 31, 2023, is hereby noted and approved. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. The next item in the agenda is the ratification of all acts, proceedings, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and management of the company from the date of the last annual stockholders meeting up to the present, as reflected in the minutes of the meetings of the Board of Directors. A summary of these acts, proceedings, and resolutions was included in the information statement. These acts, proceedings, and resolutions were discussed and approved in the meetings of the board, and its committees are covered by minutes of meetings which are on file with the Office of the Corporate Secretary. These minutes are available for inspection upon the request of any stockholder. Before we tally the votes on this item, may we know from the Corporate Secretary whether we received any inquiries on this matter?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online regarding this matter.
Since there are no queries, Madam Corporate Secretary, kindly present the proposed resolution for this item.
Mr. President, the proposed resolution for this matter is shown on the screen. We have also tallied and validated the following votes cast. Based on the total votes received, majority of the outstanding shares of the company represented in this meeting voted in favor of approving all the legal acts, resolutions, and proceedings of the Board of Directors and management of the company from the time of the last annual stockholders meeting up to the present date.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. With stockholders owning at least the majority of the outstanding shares present voting in favor of the matter, all the acts, proceedings, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and management from the date of the last annual stockholders meeting up to the present, as reflected in the minutes of the meetings of the Board of Directors, are hereby approved, confirmed, and ratified. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. The next item in the agenda is the approval of the renomination of Ms. Florencia G. Tariella and Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez as independent directors. May we request the Corporate Secretary to explain this item in the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez and Ms. Florencia G. Tariella have both served the maximum cumulative term of 9 years as independent directors under the Code of Corporate Governance for publicly listed companies. The Code of Corporate Governance, however, allows for extension of the term on meritorious grounds. In the meeting held on March 20, 2024, the Nomination Committee recognized the valuable contributions of Mrs. Tariella and Mr. Sanchez and endorsed their renomination as independent directors for another year. Mrs. Tariella was a former Undersecretary of Finance and the first Filipino Vice President of an international bank. Her professional experience is beneficial to the company in navigating and understanding the rules of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and policies of other government financial agencies. Moreover, she is a strong advocate of good corporate governance and brings this advocacy to the board for strict adherence. On the other hand, Mr. Sanchez's professional background and work experiences are invaluable to the company, as management has always sought his opinion or advice on various tax-related matters. He advises the board on pending proposals on tax legislation and the impact of the latest revenue circulars and SEC memorandum circulars. His timely advice helps the company and its subsidiaries make necessary adjustments in their operations. The renomination of Mrs. Tariella and Mr. Sanchez was duly approved by the Board of Directors and is now proposed for approval by the stockholders.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. Did we receive any inquiries regarding this item?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online regarding this matter.
Since there are no questions, Madam Corporate Secretary, kindly present the proposed resolution for this item.
Mr. President, the proposed resolution for this matter is shown on the screen. We have also tallied and validated the following votes cast. Based on the total votes received, majority of the outstanding shares of the company represented in this meeting voted in favor of approving the renomination of Ms. Florencia G. Tariella and Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez as independent directors for the year 2024 to 2025.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. With shareholders owning a majority of the outstanding shares present voting in favor of the matter, the renomination of Ms. Florencia G. Tariella and Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez as independent directors for the year 2024 to 2025 is hereby approved. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. The next item in the agenda is the election of directors for the year 2024 to 2025. May we request the Corporate Secretary to report on the nominees for directors for 2024 to 2025?
Mr. President, I am pleased to report that in the meeting held on March 20, 2024, the nomination committee approved the nomination of the following 11 individuals as directors of the company for the year 2024 to 2025. Dr. Lucio C. Tan, Ms. Carmen K. Tan, Mr. Lucio C. Tan III, Ms. Carlo T. Sai, Mr. Michael G. Tan, Ms. Vivian K. Tan, Ms. Juanita T. Tanley, Mr. Jonip G. Kua, Ms. Mary G. Nang, Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez, and Ms. Florencia G. Terriela. Nominated as independent directors are Ms. Mary G. Nang, Ms. Florencia G. Terriela, Mr. Jonip G. Kua, and Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez. The profiles and business experiences of all the nominees are set out in Item 5 of the information statement.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. Were there any questions regarding the nominees to the Board of Directors?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online regarding this matter.
Can we now hear a report from the Corporate Secretary regarding the votes on this item in the agenda?
Mr. President, we have tallied the ballots and the proxies received. The tally of votes is shown on the screen. Considering, however, that there are only 11 nominees for the 11 seats in the board, all the nominees are effectively elected as directors of the corporation for the year 2024 to 2025. Mr. President, the resolution regarding this matter is also shown on the screen.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. There being only 11 nominees and all the nominees having received votes in their favor, I hereby declare the 11 nominees as the duly elected directors of the company for 2024 to 2025. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. The next item in the agenda is the appointment of the company's external auditor. May we request the chairman of the audit committee, Mr. Jonip G. Kua, to report on the nominated external auditor for 2024 to 2025 as approved by our audit committee?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to the stockholders, officers, and directors of the company. Under the Manual of Corporate Governance, the Audit Committee is tasked to evaluate and recommend the external auditor to be appointed for the company. The committee's evaluation is thereafter endorsed to the Board of Directors and presented to the stockholders for approval. The Audit Committee is pleased to report that after careful deliberation and evaluation of the performance of the accounting firm of CCIP Gores Velayo and Company, or SGV and Company, for the past fiscal year, and considering the quality of its audit work, the competitiveness of its fees, and its reputation, we have endorsed to the board its reappointment as external auditor of the company for the year 2024-2025. The appointment of SGV and Company was approved by the Board of Directors last March 5, 2024, and is now being presented for ratification of the stockholders.
Thank you, Mr. Kua. Can we inquire from the Corporate Secretary whether there were any queries regarding the nominated external auditor?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online regarding this matter.
There being no questions, may we request the Corporate Secretary to present the proposed resolution for this item and report on the tally of votes?
Mr. President, the proposed resolution on the appointment of SGV and Company as external auditor of the company for the ensuing year is shown on the screen. The tally of votes and validated proxies for the matter is likewise shown on the screen. Based on the total votes received, majority of the outstanding shares of the company represented in this meeting voted in favor of the appointment of Sisip Gores Velayo and Co., SGV and Company, as external auditor of the company for the year 2024 to 2025.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. With stockholders owning at least a majority of the outstanding shares present in this meeting voting in favor of the matter, the appointment of Sisip Gores Velayo and Co. as external auditor of the company for the year 2024 to 2025 is hereby approved. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. I believe we have discussed all the items in our agenda. May we inquire from the Corporate Secretary if there are any other inquiries received from the stockholders?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online.
Since we have no other matters to discuss at today's meeting, this meeting is hereby adjourned. On behalf of LT Group Inc., thank you for your continuous support. We hope to see you again in our next annual stockholders meeting.